Hello, and welcome to Us Unfiltered, the podcast where we dive into authentic personal stories and share practical tips for managing your mental health. I am your host, Adrienne Selena, and today we have a very special guest. Joining us is Jeremy LeFever, the creator of Beyond the Badge Paranormal, which is an exciting YouTube series that takes its viewers on thrilling paranormal investigations. But it's not just about chasing ghosts and staying up all night. Jeremy's mission is to raise awareness for fellow first responders who are facing mental health challenges. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been a first responder? What's the type of work that you do?
I've been a firefighter and a paramedic with the city of Newport News, Virginia for 18 years. So I've been doing that for a little while. I'm the old man now. And and then the ghost hunting and the side job, the side gig is just for my wellness and the wellness of my friends.
That's awesome. So, how did you start Beyond the Badge Paranormal? What was the purpose?
To start with, for about 30 years, I've been an enthusiast, interested in things paranormal, things a little bit different, bump in the night. Like everyone, I watch all the TV shows and I'm all into everything and very open-minded about a lot of spiritual stuff. As I got older and went through my life, I always joked that I was going to do my own paranormal stuff when I retired, which is not that much longer from now, luckily. I went through some mental health struggles myself, some really deep depression, marriage issues, things like that. I was drinking a little bit too much, kind of having my own problems. And it was kind of weird how the two things sort of came together. I realized that once I got through the struggles that I went through, that it would be like an alternative therapy for me to be able to go on these paranormal adventures and forget about daily life, forget about taxes and bills and work and the trauma that we see at work and stuff like that. I got a couple friends of mine and we sort of did it as a joke, like, hey, let's go hunt ghosts, and get away for a while. And that's where we started. It was more of a fun little group that was just going to go out and have a good time. And then we realized while we were there how much better we felt while we were actually doing the adventure. I don't call us investigators that much because I don't think we're like trained investigators. And there's minimal scientific method behind it. We use the tools and stuff, but a lot of it's us having a good time and going like, well, I don't know why that thing is beeping, but it's definitely not anything we're doing. We try to keep it fun like that, right? We don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
so stuck on like these investigative rules. I don't even know what any of that means. So we're explorers, we have fun. So anyway, we started doing this and realizing, man, if this is making us feel better, I bet you it would make other people feel better. So we started putting YouTube videos out, and they were terrible in the beginning. They're getting better, definitely. And then we saw that a couple videos had some views, and we were like, man, I wonder if we could take this whole group and make it a mental awareness group where we do the things we like to do, which is ghost hunt and travel and do all that. But then if we were lucky enough to have a platform on YouTube and social media, we could basically spread the word about first responder mental health, prevent suicide, things like that. And then so we just decided one day, like, that's what we're gonna do. Fast forward a couple weeks, we I said, well, it's we can talk about it all day, but we're not really doing anything other than just talking about it. So what if we reached out to an actual charity, a nonprofit, and said, can we use your logos, promote your charity, and really have a physical something backing us up? So I reached out to, looked at a lot of different charities, and Survive First Foundation out of Florida. It's a nonprofit. They're completely run by donation and they're just super sweet people. Look, I'm never going to make any money off this, probably. We're never going to have a lot of views. We're probably just going to end up stay in a small little group. But if nothing else, we might help one person. And the thing that really locked me in with them was they said that if we can just help one person, then mission accomplished. Yeah, Beyond the Badge is a lot more than just a paranormal group now, and I love it. That's really the lifespan of Beyond the Badge at this point. We just hit our year mark. Really, there's nothing stopping us. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love the fact that this all started out of a hobby. I think a lot of times when people think of mental health and like how to manage our mental health, they immediately think like, oh, I've got to do therapy, I've got to do yoga, I've got to do meditation. And
Mhm.
they don't think about the fact that doing a hobby really does improve your mental health. It gives you an outlet of relieving stress, doing
Mhm.
creativity. And I like the fact that this has evolved now into helping other people. So
Hmm.
it's a good outlet for you and your friends, but it's also getting people connected to resources. So that's awesome.
I would love to have get a call from like somebody that says, "Hey, we want to make a show about first responders who hunt ghosts. We think it's a great idea, and then we can do some actual, an actual show where we have a bigger reach." I would love that. I'd love to have 1 million subscribers on YouTube and 1 million followers on TikTok. But I've preached this multiple times. I would give it all up and have 0 followers and 0 subscribers if we can save one person, right? And it means really
Mm-hmm.
the most important part is that we can help someone. What's really crazy is naturally things are occurring. I mean, it's a small number, but we just got our 600 subscriber a couple of days ago, which for 1 year in a small group, that's a lot for us. We're like 600 people in one room is a lot of people. And those 600 people know people, and maybe we've reached a first responder somewhere
Yeah,
that enjoys paranormal that says, man, these guys are a lot like me. I want people to see vulnerability in me. That's why I do these podcasts. I want people to say, wow, this guy is saying that he struggled with all these things and that there was nights that I cried and there was nights that I was, just absolutely at my end. And I thought about ending it all. And it was through my hobby. It was through my family support. It was through my friends. It was through just reaching out and letting people know I'm hurting and feeling the
mm-hmm.
love that people gave back to me. I want people to see that in me. So maybe someone like me will say, you know what, it's okay to not be okay.
That's awesome. You know, it's funny. November is men's health month. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I can do this. And it's it's amazing that there's still so much stigma around men saying, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important, especially in the first responder community and in the veteran community, where we know that there's just so much statistical evidence about PTSD and trauma
Hmm.
and anxiety, depression, where men are coming out and saying, no, I'm not okay. And I have not been okay for a while and I need help. And being able to just break that stigma and continue to spread awareness like you're doing, it's so important because it gives men that opportunity to say, okay, it's okay for me to say this and I'm not going to look weak. It's not going to emasculate me. Other people are feeling like this too.
You're actually, in my opinion, stronger by reaching out. It takes more strength to do that than it does to keep it in. And unfortunately, for men especially, we will keep a lot of it on the inside and suffer in silence until it's too
Mm-hmm.
late. And because we don't want to look weak. And that's just the way society has made things, where men
Yeah.
aren't allowed to cry, which is complete BS. So yeah, that's kind of our mission, and just spread the word and spread the love.
Well, can you share a moment or a specific event in your career that did significantly impact your mental health?
Sure. I mean, in 18 years, I've probably got hundreds of them, unfortunately. And my box is pretty full. And what I say by that is the traumas that we have, we never get to empty this box. It's like an imaginary box we stuff our trauma into. And so we do a 24-hour shift, and I could take 20 calls. And, if I get a traumatic call at 10 in the morning, I got to go back to work and do my thing. I stuff it in the box. And then 2 more calls later that day get stuffed in the box. And then the following day, I come home. I never really empty that box and it just fills up. So that's what I mean by filling the box up, in case anyone was wondering. Yeah. So children really affect you the most. Any sort of tragedy that involves a child really hurts and hits you hard. And it's hard to forget about those. I've had, unfortunately, children that have passed away or been involved in serious trauma. And having kids myself makes it even harder. You see your own children basically when you're
Mhm.
helping these kids. So yeah, that's a really tough stuff. And watching families lose people is really hard.
Yeah, I'm
Anytime a
sure.
child is involved, it's absolutely just very traumatic, and it takes weeks to. I've had calls where I haven't slept for a week or two, a good
Mm.
night's sleep, because the call repeats. That's the issue with a lot of this trauma is I will go on a tragic call, come back, live my life, do our normal call, our normal station life, and all that. But when you lay down at night, the call repeats, and you get replay of the call over and over and over and over again because you second guess yourself. You wonder if you could have done something better, and then so that really, really, really messes you up. And
Yeah, I'm sure causing you to second guess. And then you're like, oh, did I do the right thing? And yeah, I'm sure
sure.
that's very
And
stressful.
and I see the same person, the person that's
Hmm.
involved in a tragedy over and over again. So that's why it's super important for all of us to have professional help. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like my therapist and she's wonderful. I can call her at any point. I don't have to have an appointment. I can just text her and say, I need help. She'll fit me in, even if it's after hours, because
Hmm.
she knows that sometimes it's a matter of just getting it off my chest and talking to her
Yeah.
about it. And yeah, so it's really nice. And I encourage everyone to have a therapist, even if you don't feel like you need it right now.
I didn't grow up in a home where my family believed in therapy. So it was very like a foreign concept
Hmm.
to me until I got divorced. And then I was like, holy shit, I need somebody to talk to.
Yeah, right.
This is too much to unpack on my own. And that was when I got to therapy the first time. And it's just being able to like hear yourself say the words out loud sometimes I think
Hmm.
helps. It really is like taking a weight off having the words leave your own mouth. I agree. If you're listening and you don't have a therapist, I highly recommend getting into therapy or some sort of mental health support, like a support group, just so you have an opportunity to get some of those things off of your mind. It helps your mind reprocess information
Hmm.
and you're not, kind of taking on all that weight by yourself.
Yeah. And if you're a first responder out there listening, I hope that you're enjoying the show. But Survive First offers therapeutic resources. You can go and find help. You can get immediate help. If you need financial help, they can help you that with some of your therapy, because not everyone has the healthcare and the ability to afford a therapist. I mean, therapists can be really expensive, but Survive First Foundation offers those resources, and they also will travel to your organization and actually provide first therapeutic training to your department and things like that. So,
That's awesome. So, what
yeah.
are some coping strategies that you use to, like, on the nights where you are kind of replaying the last call in your head, or maybe you've had a conversation with someone underneath you who's really struggling and now you're replaying their call on your head? How do you cope with some of that?
I think it's really important that you have someone you can talk to. Um,
Hmm.
so at my firehouse, there's a few people that are really, they're all amazing, but there's a couple people I'll go to and like I said, be vulnerable and be like, hey, this is what's happening, and I can't shut this off. Um, I actually use my hobby to help me cope. So editing videos and doing that side of things really helps me. It helps redirect my brain to more productive things instead of just repeating the tragedy. And I have
Hmm.
noticed it's been really helpful to me. It's almost like I dive into that whole world of like, all right, I want to try to edit this video, or and if you notice on our social media, every once in a while I'll put out some sort of like video where it's just music and some words and stuff, and that's my way of
Hmm.
coping. It's kind of like I find really beautiful pictures and music, and I have this thing about music too, is I really love searching for music with feelings. So a lot of times I will go to my like story blocks or whatever the music where I get my music from, and I'll just go through the list of music and I'm looking for something that gives me a feeling. And then from the feeling of what the music gives me, I go searching for like some sort of video or some sort of image that
Hmm.
fits that feeling the music gives me. So music is amazing too. I use that a lot as my coping mechanisms. The thing that you don't want to do is get into, substance abuse and things like that. In the past, I would, tip back a little whiskey bottle and enjoy it because I'm like, oh, that makes me feel good at night, calm down. But that's really not actually very helpful. It's actually very harmful. So I stopped doing a lot of that. And but yeah, that's how I cope usually. It's just immerse myself in the work and then have a friend that I can just communicate with that's just going to listen. I don't need them to fix me. I just need them to
Yeah.
listen to me.
This is a good one. And I feel like a lot of first responders would appreciate this. What support can a spouse or a family member bring to a first responder?
So that's a really good question, and it's a really tough question because there's not a lot of training for the spouse and the
Hmm.
family that's available right now. There are some things out there, but that's actually a missing link. or an element in this whole process. So the spouse, it's really important for them to recognize changes in behavior when a first responder comes home. They could be, wanting to go to sleep right away, which is important. That could be just because they're up all night, but that could be, they're just exhausted mentally and physically. They could want to kind of be quiet and left alone, kind of a recluse, like kind of go away from everyone, not be involved with a lot of things that's going on. They tend to be a little quicker to snap and have outbursts.
Mm-hmm.
They're going from a very high energy atmosphere to where there's a lot of stress to a place that should maybe calmer, but little things that happen might set them off. And I know for me personally, a lot of the issues was I would see like one of my family members, I would see him get upset over something really tiny, and it would really set me off. Like, you have no idea how insignificant that tiny little thing is that you're upset about, because I'm thinking about what I just dealt with. When in actuality, their thing is important to them. That is as big, and we shouldn't be comparing in their life and their day. That's a pretty important thing. So as a first responder, from my aspect, I've seen myself make these mistakes. From a spouse aspect and family aspect, you got to pay attention to some of the subtle signs. And if you've never been taught or trained on how to recognize those, it could be very difficult. You could think that your first responder is behaving that way for other reasons, man. Like maybe they don't love you anymore and all this stuff, but really, and they're just hurting, and they don't know how to deal with their trauma. You haven't been trained to recognize their trauma. So that's the reason I'm glad you asked that, because that's the entire reason why. And I'm talking about setting up something called the Family Support Alliance. And basically, what the goal of our nonprofit is going to be is to provide training to the families, especially the spouses of first responders, while they're in the academy. So, the first responders going through the fire academy, closer towards the end, we're going to provide a night where we have families get together, and we're going to provide this training. It doesn't have to be super intense. It's just like, hey, these are things to look for. These are ways that you can help your first responder. These are resources you have. My wife actually is the one who came up with the idea. I was asking her one day, like, what do you think from your perspective is missing in this puzzle? Because I mean, I can have therapy and all that stuff, but families are still struggling. What is the issue? And she's like, well, nobody ever tells us how to deal with you guys,
Mm-hmm.
no one's ever there for us. You guys get all the recognition and deal with all this, but you also get the therapy. We get nothing. We get to deal with the aftermath. And I said, well, we should do something where we provide that training for you guys. So she's been a big proponent of that, and that's awesome. So,
Yeah, that is awesome. Something that we see a lot. So, as you know, I work at a veterans nonprofit, and something we see a lot in the veteran community space, which I'm sure is probably accurate in the first responder space, is secondary PTSD. For any listeners who don't know what secondary PTSD is, basically, it is taking on trauma from listening to the first person's perspective of the trauma or reliving that story. So, a lot of times in the veteran community, the service members will go home and sometimes share certain significant events that have impacted them with their spouses or significant others. And just listening to that story and experiencing it can cause trauma to the listener. And then they are now taking on this secondary PTSD and not knowing how to cope with it. And then you also have a lot of times when you are married or living with someone who is experiencing significant mental health issues and they're not coping with them well, they can have outbursts or anger or a really hard time just doing day-to-day activities. And
hmm
then that significant other, that spouse, is like, I don't know how to communicate with this person, and that starts becoming a rub in their relationship. So it becomes a very cyclical kind of toxic pattern
hmm
very quickly if there's not good support provided. And so anyway, I say all that to say that in the veteran community space, we've been really trying to prioritize the needs of the family support members by
hmm
understanding, like, you're going through this with them. It's not exactly the same, but in your own way, it's just as important. It's significant. and being able to provide them support, and then also the opportunity to be around other family support members. So that way they
Mhm.
have their own like-minded community. If I were a spouse, I would love the opportunity to talk to another spouse and say, like, what I'm going through, how can we help each other through this?
Mhm.
Give me an opportunity to just vent about this. So I
Yeah.
think that's wonderful that you guys are recognizing that as an area for improvement, because a lot of times I think the family support members, they often sit in the background and they get kind of forgotten about.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. They're the forgotten first responders, really. I mean, they're part of the team, and we got to help them out too. I've just seen my wife struggle so much, my kids struggle from my problems, the pain I've caused all of them. So, tomorrow's not guaranteed. So I want to
Mm.
do something while I'm here and hopefully leave a mark. Well, I will tell you, ghosts are real though. So I don't know how it all works out, but I know ghosts are real. But tomorrow's not guaranteed. So I want to do something big while we're here. And
Yeah.
yeah, and the crazy thing, I surrounded myself with people. That's another thing. Surround yourself with people that are like-minded and that are
Hmm.
positive and that support what you're doing. I don't want to walk away from what we're doing because it means something. What if tomorrow is the day that I get a contact with somebody to help them? So yeah, it's tough. We gotta make a difference while we're here and
Yeah, for
spread
sure.
the love. There's a lot of things that people listening to this podcast can do just to help. I mean, obviously, supporting your channel, your TikTok and all that, and your podcast, supporting us, subscribing is a big deal. Even though like I said, it's not the biggest deal, but when you subscribe to us, it allows us to reach more. We're on
Hmm.
the cusp of getting a sponsor, if our subscription numbers go up. So, what does that mean for us? Well, we don't get money from it. It covers our travel, so that means we get to do more, go more places, do more things, and make more videos, which means we get to reach more people. It's a big deal for us.
It's amazing how much just asking someone if they're doing okay makes a difference.
Sure.
And, I think a lot of times we all get so kind of busy in our own lives, just like in our own heads, in our own routines, doing our own
Hmm.
things. And we kind of forget, like, maybe I should have checked in on my friend this past week, or, maybe I should call. And, if you're listening and you want to make a difference in someone's life, be that person that
Hmm.
provides support to another person. Because I can
Yeah.
promise you, as someone who has gone through an immense amount of mental health challenges, just having one person check in on me every once in a while, it reminds me that I'm important. It makes me feel cared
Hmm.
about and loved, and reminds me that there are people out there who would miss me if I was gone.
Oh yeah,
So
100%. We would definitely miss you.
luckily, I don't deal with suicidal ideation as much as I used to,
Yeah,
but there are days every once in a while that'll creep up on you, and
I know.
you're just like, oh, do I even want to like continue trying on this path? And I swear it's like God hears me because I'll have a friend
Yeah.
randomly reach out to
Yeah,
me.
yeah. I promise the world needs you, man. And it's better because you're here for sure.
I,
God wants us to be. I don't, everybody has their own beliefs and things like that, but it's it's way too beautiful out there to imagine that it was all mistakes. So we're all meant to be here for a reason. And I think God allowed me to go through such a hard mental health battle that I went through for a period of time to bring me out of it, to realize that there's a lot more work to do,
yeah,
that I need to be really driven. That's why I'm not afraid to reach out to anyone and talk to anyone and do things that I would normally in the past be hesitant and afraid of someone judging me. Um, you could ask anybody right now. My mental state is I don't care if you judge me or not. I'm going to tell you who we are. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Even this nonprofit thing is very scary to me because I don't do I'm a fireman who does that and hunts ghosts and makes YouTube videos. But then this whole idea of, what, let's just start a nonprofit. Like, what are we thinking? Like, how in the world is this going to work out? But I'm putting my faith in God and putting my faith in, you know, humanity and thing. You know what? if it's for a good reason, go for it. Why
Yeah.
would God give us the opportunities to do things and give us ideas if we always turn away and say, no, I'm too scared. So
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
for
not afraid
sure.
of it.
When you're going through, like, let's say you've been, having a series of tragic calls at work, how would you encourage other first responders to stay motivated and resilient when you're going through either a continual or ongoing challenge like that?
It's harder when you're new in the job, right? So when you're new in the job, it's hard to see the big picture because you're learning the job and you're learning
Mm-hmm.
how to deal with tragedy. As I get older and become an old man, I realize that it's even more important that I take my experiences on a daily basis and use them to help these newer folks manage. For me, the tragic calls that I go on is an opportunity to let people know that they are important and that they're needed. Going through these tragic calls on a daily basis makes me realize how important it is that I stay focused on providing the message that we give every day.
Mm-hmm.
Building these tools for these young folks to deal with the tragedy they see on the job. I would tell them to, again, find a hobby or something that helps you get away from the job. You have to step away and separate your mind from what you have to see every single day. If you don't have a hobby and all you do is go home and come back to work, and when you're at home, all you're looking at is first responder videos, fire trucks and fires and all this stuff because you're so consumed with the job, you never give your brain a chance to turn off. And I think that's really important that you step away and find something that's completely different than what you normally do. A lot of us, unfortunately, first responder pay isn't great. So we always have to have part-time jobs. So even when we leave the job, we're going to another job.
Mm.
Um, but
I didn't even
step
think
away
about
for a
that.
while. Yeah, we have to work 2 to 3 jobs to survive because the way the world works is you make more money, like I said, selling your feet on the internet than you do running a burning building. It's really a tragic thing. I don't understand
It
how this
is.
works,
That's
but
ridiculous.
I'm not doing it. Okay. There's a lot of reasons why that won't happen. Yeah, you got to separate, completely. So that's a big thing. For me, the ghost adventures is fun. It's a fun adventure for a few days where we don't care about anything that's going on with the fire department because we're so focused on having fun. You got to find a hobby like that, something that just takes you away, even if it's a sport, if you want to play golf or
Mm-hmm.
go fishing or whatever you do, read a book if that takes your mind off of it. Going through a rough week. So like I said, have a therapist on retainer so you can call them real quick and be like, hey, I need to get this off my chest, or just that real good friend that wants to listen, that can handle the information you're going to give them. Best thing to do is find someone that you're stationed with or you work with that's also has information and knowledge about that. I wouldn't tell your spouse about some of the bad stuff because then again you got secondary trauma, but find some good friends at work that can help you through it. Pay attention to your body. Your body tells you a lot of information. Feel anxious when you don't normally feel anxious. If you can't sleep at night, if you find yourself binging on food and unhealthy things, your body might be trying to tell you, hey, something's not right. And pay attention to those signs. Your body will tell you a lot of times that it's suffering. I know when I'm hitting my end game because I start really can't sleep and I get anxious and I start doing unhealthy things, like eating too much sweets and stuff. That's why I'm fat. I mean, I was skinnier before I went through my depression, like by a lot. I'm chunky, but I
It's the
was like,
holiday season,
no,
so it's
no, I
fine.
can't blame it on the holidays. I've been going for like a year and a half holiday right now. I gotta get out of this thing. Before I went through this little struggle, I was like 215 pounds. I was working out every day, and then I went through my thing, and I just haven't been able to bounce back yet. But
Yeah.
exercise is really good. Start exercising. You don't have to be a marathon runner or anything crazy to start with. It could be as easy as just get out and do a walk, and then for a week or two, you just walk. And then after about a couple weeks, you might do walk for 2 minutes, run for 30 seconds, or jog for 30 seconds and let that build and just slowly build up. There's no rush. No
Mm-hmm.
matter what you do, any movement is better than no movement. Consider the sauna, consider the cold therapies, and consider those things because, other countries and other places, they've been proven to really benefit mental health.
What advice would you give someone considering going into a field of being a first responder? And especially, what advice would you give them regarding their mental health?
That's a good question. So I would tell them to do it. I mean, it's a job that, despite the things you see and have to deal with, it's a job that provides you a lot of it's blessings. We do get to do a lot of good things for people too. It's a good job. We are very fortunate to have the position we have. We do it not for the money, obviously. We do it because it's a good thing to do for the community, and so I would encourage them to do it. I wouldn't ever tell them not to if that's what their heart tells them to do. Just don't expect to make a ton of money. And yep, have a
Selfie
therapist
pictures on the
available.
side.
That's right. Have a therapist available. I would just tell them to really pay attention to the old guys and listen to some of the stuff they tell you to do, because I mean, we've been through it, we've seen it. New guy comes in sometimes with a lot of ideas in their head, but they really haven't experienced anything yet. Just be prepared. It is going to be tough. You're going to see dead bodies. You're going to see, kids hurt and people losing family members, and there's a lot of crying, and there's a lot of stuff that you have to deal with and still do your job. And there's also the danger that comes with the job too, the actual, running and burning buildings and things. So I would encourage them to do it. Just be prepared for what you're going to deal with. Make sure that if you are in a relationship or starting a relationship, you're transparent and honest with the person that you're dating, because they are going to be doing the job with you.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's good
and
advice.
yeah, they're part of the team. So if they aren't willing to join the team as well, it may not work out
Yeah.
very well. Divorce rates are pretty high because of that. So, and don't this is on a sidetrack. Don't get in relationships with anyone at work. Relationship like it can work, but it normally doesn't. It causes a lot of drama. So try to stay away from the drama.
Yeah, what's the common expression? Don't dip your pen in company ink.
That's right. Don't do
I've
that.
done it.
Listen,
Jeremy's right. Don't
yeah,
do it. It's not
no, it
worth
doesn't
it.
work. I don't do that. My wife is not, in the first responder field at all, but I've seen this happen many, many times, and I always sit back like, man, that's a bad idea. You guys shouldn't be doing
Hmm.
that. But I've been married 20 years now to the same woman. She's a saint because she puts up with me. I am a very difficult person to live with, I believe. Uh,
Same.
but yeah, but if she can put up with me for 20 years, she deserves a medal. Don't dip your pen in the company ink for sure. I know that really doesn't have anything to do with it, but
That's
but
just good
definitely
life
do.
advice.
It really is good life advice. Yeah, don't any time. Yeah, keep it all separated. Be careful.
Yep.
Sorry.
All right. Well, our last question for today: what resources or support systems outside of therapy and outside of your YouTube series have you found to be beneficial for you? Whether it be just, taking time in nature or going camping or spending time with the
Hmm.
family, or whether it's, other types of resources like books. Like what have you found has been helpful for you or any of your first responder friends?
Spending time with family is an amazing way to deal with it. So nothing really helps as much as having a hug from your kids and just sitting there and listening to them, and getting, we call them, snuggles, or loving on your children and all that. That really helps mentally, because it unleashes a whole lot of things inside your body that you don't even know that are there, that are really helping, dopamine and all kinds of stuff, right? So it's really important that you have family time. Like camping, we do that a lot. So that's great to go camping and get away from everything for a little while and experience family time. Shutting down social media. I reading books is a great thing. I mean, you can read a good book. Just be careful. It's not like one of those like weird tragic books where there's a whole lot of tragedy going on, because then you're just putting more stress on yourself. Um, if you are spiritual and believe in God and things like that, prayer is a great thing, or whatever your religious beliefs are. And again, like I said, find a hobby, something that you really enjoy, because that really helps. That helps you stay motivated too, because no matter how bad the week is, if on Friday you're going with your friends to go golfing or whatever your hobby is, that helps get through the week.
Yeah.
So
You
a
have
lot of
something to look
times,
forward to.
yeah, a lot of times for me, I have a bad week, but I know, oh, Saturday we head out of town for a few days to go do an adventure.
That's great advice. I will say if you are not a religious person at all, there is still something called spiritual self-care that you can do, and it can just be a different type of practice where
Mhm.
you are meditating or
Oh
having
yeah.
like what I like to call quiet or peaceful time, where you just like literally turn off everything, turn off the phone, turn off the TV, turn off the podcast or the audiobooks or whatever, and just literally be quiet with yourself.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. You know
so
what I've found has been really good too for me is if I get up early in the morning before everybody else is up, when the sun's just barely coming up, and just go sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and just listen to the leaves and feel the breeze blowing on your face and just have that quiet time where there's no TikTok. The world's really not talking to you other than just paying attention to nature at that point. I always feel better. And there's some science behind the whole like being out there and
mhm.
getting the sun in the morning, getting your your cycle on where you see the sunrise and the sunset and all that. And if the first thing you see in the morning is TikTok screen on your phone, it's going to mess you all up all day. So I know I feel better in the morning if I'm get my lazy butt out of bed and go out, sit on the porch or sit on the steps and just kind of feel the air and just look at the sun and put your face in the sun. Don't stare at the sun. That's not what I'm saying. But let the sun hit you in your face. It actually does some stuff in your body that helps regulate how you feel. So
Yeah, it's a good
yeah.
endorphin and dopamine
Yeah,
release,
it
and
really is. It's weird.
being out in nature has
Hmm.
so much scientific evidence to back that it can help regulate your nervous system, reduce
Hmm.
stress, reduce anxiety. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for today.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Us Unfiltered. If you have found this episode helpful, please subscribe and share it with others who might benefit from it. And please go check out Jeremy's wonderful YouTube series, and it is called Beyond the Badge Paranormal. You can find it on YouTube. You can also follow them on TikTok. Really awesome people, really cool stuff that they do. And until next time, take care of yourself and each other. And remember, mental health matters, and so do you.